Now to the conflict in the Middle East. Iran is in a total digital blackout this morning, leaving thousands of Americans who are in Iran and here in the U.S. in the dark about what is happening there. And joining us live this morning to talk more about the conflict in Iran is Florida House Representative Anna Eskamani. She is the first Iranian-American elected to office here in Florida. Anna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Amy. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, too. I can only imagine what you're feeling right now. I'm sure that it's a whole mix of things, right? Things that are probably even difficult to talk about. So let's talk first about personal feelings. I know you have family and friends who are in Iran. What do you know about how they're doing?
It's a really great question. I wish I had updates. You know, the regime is so brutal in Iran that in any type of situation of uprising against the government, or in this case, an assault on the government, they shut down the internet. And I've not been able to hear directly from my family really since Saturday morning. I have family across the region, including in Tehran. And so I'm just hoping that no news is okay news. And at this point, it's been very difficult to even call into the country. But I was able Saturday morning to get in contact with one of my aunts who lives in a different city. But beyond that, just waiting for updates like everyone else.
Anna, I don't think a lot of people are familiar with the history of what happened back in the 1970s. So many people in Iran fled the Shah in the late 1970s, came to the United States. I grew up with friends and neighbors who were of Iranian descent who had moved to the United States to escape the Shah. And I think without knowing that history, people don't really understand, why are we doing this? What is our purpose for trying to do this? Can you break that down a little bit?
For sure. And you might be speaking to the Islamic Revolution of 1979, when the Shah fled Iran, and of course a religious theocratic government came into place under Ayatollah Khomeini, and then facilitated by Ayatollah Khamenei, who facilitated together 47 years of repression, 47 years of silencing and criminalizing dissent, of killing its own people. And even just most recently in January, there were mass protests across Iran against this government. And people came to the streets and they were met with bloodshed. In fact, we don't even know how many Iranians were killed by the government this year alone. And this created an environment where a lot of international voices engaged, including President Trump. And I do think a lot of what this current military assault has to do with is the threat that Israel felt from Iran, which is legitimate in the sense that Iran has exercised rhetoric and sleeper cells and so forth against their enemies for years now, and that includes Israel and the United States. And so right now we find ourselves in a very delicate situation where the voices supporting this mission are calling for regime change, but not to be facilitated by outside countries, but to be facilitated by the people within Iran, which I will say is easier said than done, just because of how deeply embedded this regime is. It's almost like an amphibian. You cut off one leg, another one grows back. But I am very hopeful that as we see the people of Iran, despite the fear of losing their lives from bombardment and from their own government, are still coming out to protest, are expressing their joy in the face of Ayatollah Khamenei being killed. And of course, it speaks to just the incredible resilience of the Iranian people, who have been through so much in such a short period of time, and yet continue to fight for their freedom.
Well, and I know you were probably able to see all of the people, and we're showing the video here in downtown Orlando, who were celebrating over the weekend, which I'm sure, you know, made you feel good to see that as well. But as far as a long-term plan, and I know you talked about how delicate this situation is, I think that's the scariest part for people who are now, we want to have hope for the future, but what does that look like?
It's an excellent question, and I actually have stopped by many of these rallies downtown, including that one as well. That is the Iranian-American diaspora. It's incredibly diverse, but regardless of their political affiliation or support of this action, everyone was celebrating the death of Ayatollah Khamenei because of just how evil he is and will be known in the history books. But to the heart of your question, every American has concern about prolonged military intervention, and I am in that category. I'm very concerned about the plan. I'm very concerned about U.S. service members being in harm's way, of civilians being killed as collateral damage. We already know that there was a girls' school that was under bombardment, and it's been a lot of misinformation of who was responsible for it. But regardless, a girls' school was shot at and bombed, and nearly 100 people who have nothing to do with this regime have lost their lives. And so it's really important for there to be congressional oversight, for there to be bipartisan engagement on this, and for this not to be a repeat of Iraq and Afghanistan, which I think Americans overwhelmingly look back at that moment in our history and realize that mistakes were made.
Right. Well, we so appreciate you being with us, Anna, and please keep us posted about friends and family. If you hear anything, we would love to hear back from you. State Representative Anna Eskamani, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.